Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Tonight, we're going to learn 6 steps to buy your first home or your first rental. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Let's talk about buying your first home or first rental. Thanks, everybody. We're going to get right to it. I am not going to hold you long. I'm Katina Willis. I'm a mortgage broker and a real estate broker, and I love to work with investors. And today I want to tell y'all 6 steps to buy your first home or rental, and stick around until the end, right? If you're watching the replay, you stick around until the end because I got a great, amazing bonus. And one thing too, y'all, I'm going to go through this presentation really quickly, right? And thoroughly, but we are going to have a Q&A session, okay? We're going to stop and answer some questions. So let's go. Let's get right on to it. 6 steps to buy your first home or your first rental, presented by moi, Katina Willis. All right, so let's get to it, y'all. So, 5 important reasons that home ownership matters. So we got right here, it helps you to build equity over time. Stable monthly income versus rent increases. How many people? Type a 1 in the chat if you have ever rented a property and then all of a sudden your rent went up, increased $200 or $300, and you had no idea that was coming. Let me know. Type a 1 in the chat. Type a 2 in the chat if you have ever rented a property and all of a sudden the landlord said, I'm selling my property, so you got to go. That stinks, right? So pride of ownership, stability, all right? That's one of the main reasons that I think home ownership matters. So in my opinion, I think home ownership, buying versus renting, buying a house and home ownership beats renting any day of the week. That's my opinion. All right. Now, tell me, y'all, am I talking too loud? Because this microphone, sometimes I find myself yelling. So my apologies if I am. Let me try to tone it down. So, okay, y'all, step number 1 into buying your first home or rental property is to get pre-approved. All right. So even before you get pre-approved, what you want to do is monitor your credit score regularly. I'm talking about, there's so many ways, y'all. You can go to Experian.com right now and sign up for free. They're going to try to get you to pay something on Google, and you don't have to pay it. They're going to try to get you to pay like a $5 fee. You don't have to pay that fee. Just click the little link. It's going to be a tiny fine print that says, no, thank you. I'll continue with the free service. So just monitor it for free on Experian.com. All right. So getting pre-approved, it does require you to gather your financial documents early. Okay. The most important part, in my opinion, about getting pre-approved is monitoring that credit, having 2 years of tax returns, and not changing jobs 2 years if you can help it, because I know how the job market is. So sometimes you're like, screw this job, screw this boss. So that is one way, though. So let's go to the next step, number 2. Step number 2. Are y'all following me? Let me know in the chat. Type following. If you're following me and you're still here, let me know in the chat, y'all. Okay? Because like I said, we're going to do a Q&A. I don't want to just be talking at you. I want to talk with you. All right? I want to have a conversation. I want you to be engaged and alive here. So step number 2, y'all, choose your strategy. Now, choosing your strategy just means actually planning and thinking about what kind of loan you want to get. Do you have a down payment, or do you have down payment assistance, right? These are the things that you want to think about when you are at step number 2 and choosing your strategy. How much of a down payment do you have? Because if you don't have a lot of money, you might want to consider the FHA loan, which we're going to talk about later in the section. All right. So loan options. Here we are right here. Loan options. Type your questions right now in the chat about these type of loans. Okay. Now, conventional loans. Conventional loans, I'm writing a note, y'all. Sorry about that delay. So, conventional loans. Now, in my opinion, these are typically people who have a stronger credit score, like a 680 and higher, or typically people who are buying their second home, right? So, now, and also conventional homes, um, it's not as the appraisals are a little less, what's the word I'm looking for? The appraisals are not as tight on a conventional loan, whereas the FHA loan, everything has to be in tip-top shape. There can't be any chip paint. There can't be, I've even had it once in the wintertime where an appraisal asked the buyer or the seller to go shovel that snow off the sidewalk so that they could see the cement before they would give us a value, an appraisal value. So USDA and VA, of course, with VA, you have to be a veteran, and USDA, that is when you buy in a rural area. Okay. And sometimes they have programs with very little down payment. So if you do want to move into the country and far from the city, you might want to consider a USDA loan. Now, non-QM, that is alternative loans, and a lot of real estate investors usually get the non-QM loans. We are going to talk about that later. All right. So again, here are the financing options, y'all. Conventional loans, FHA loans, VA loans, USDA. Actually, okay, so USDA sometimes have 0% programs. So does the VA. And with FHA, as little as 3.5% down. Conventional, 3 to 5% down is typically the down payment amount, but you must have that stronger credit score. Now, if you learned something so far, y'all, drop a fireball in the chat. Keep me motivated, keep me up. All right, drop a fireball in the chat. I'm trying to get through this so I don't hold you too long. So let's get to the next slide. All right, step number 4. Step number 4, you're almost there. Step number 4, y'all, you want to find a realtor. Find you a licensed real estate agent. You probably should ask for referrals because 9 out of 10, you have a friend or a family member that recently purchased a home and know a great realtor that you might like. So find a realtor, all right? And the realtor, find one that's a local expert that's very knowledgeable in the area that you like, okay? And set realistic search criteria. Now, what I mean by that is don't have a pre-approval for $200,000 and then ask your real estate agent to take you to look at houses that are $250,000. Don't do that, y'all. No, that is a no. And let me tell you why. If you start looking at $250,000 houses and your pre-approval is only $200,000, nothing is going to make you happy after that, right? Because once the $250,000 houses throw your offer in the trash because it's too low, and then you're going to have to be forced to look at the $200,000 properties, you're not going to like any of those $200,000 properties because they're not going to look as good. So just, look at houses, I was going to say act your wage. I'm sorry, y'all. I like to have fun. But look at the proper value. Look at homes that match your pre-approval amount so that you're not disappointed in the end. All right. Step number 5, you finally found a home that you love. So what do you do? What do you do, y'all, when you find a home that you love? You write a strong offer. Now, let me tell you, like I just said, if you're looking at houses that's $250,000, hoping you can get a deal and they will accept your $200,000 amount, that's not a strong offer. That's playing games. That's wasting time, right? But say you are looking at $200,000, write a strong offer, right? And also, though, let me tell you this, though, too. Well, I didn't even have that, but Understanding the market conditions, that's an important part as well. And that is what your real estate agent will advise you about. If your real estate agent tells you the good houses are being sold in 1 to 2 days, then pay attention to that. Listen to that, right? That means when you find the house that's perfect for your family, you want to make an offer quickly and you want to make it a strong offer, right? That means full price, moving fast, good amount of down payment, stuff like that. So after your strong offer, your next step is to schedule the home inspection. Your realtor will give you a list of inspectors to choose from. Once you pass that home inspection, guess what? The lender takes the lead. That's when you start dealing with me. Well, you deal with me in the beginning, getting pre-approved, but now once you find that perfect house, I really take over, right? So the lender takes the lead, we order the appraisal, and then it goes to underwriting, okay? Now, step number 6, who's ready for closing? Type closing. Type closing in the chat, y'all. Keep me motivated, y'all. Keep me motivated. So, all right, the closing process, y'all. You want to review your from the lender, right? You're going to get what's called a CD. So you review and you sign that CD, right? Let's see, what else? You schedule your final walkthrough. Now, once the loan is ready to close, you want to walk through the house either the day before or the day of closing that morning, just to make sure everything is still in the condition that you originally saw it or that you saw it at inspection time, right? So next, get ready for that closing appointment. Bring your ID, wire your funds, or bring a small check, depending on what you have to do. Sign your documents, get your keys, and celebrate. Now, if you're ready to celebrate, pop some bottles in that chat. Pop some bottles in that chat, y'all. Let's celebrate. So it's closing day. Now, let's talk about Q&A. I know I went through that kind of fast. So what questions do you have? Okay. So somebody wants to know, what if the property is not in the same condition on closing day? What do you do? Okay, let me tell y'all. I've had a lot of scenarios, y'all. I've been in real estate a long time, mainly as a real estate agent, right? So long story short, okay, one time we walked in a property and the day of closing, and guess what? The pipes had leaked. This was a property that was recently renovated, so it was vacant. Nobody was living in the house, and the pipes had burst. It was water everywhere. So what happened was, this was a really, really good seller. What he did was he offered his contractor, as well as he gave the buyer some cash back. I want to say he gave her a couple $1,000s. I don't remember. This was a long time ago, but he gave her some money back so that she could pay for it. And he even helped her he helped her with the contractor. And if you've ever renovated a house, finding a good contractor is half the battle. So he was a really good seller, and she still lives in that house today, and she loves that house. So that's one situation I had. What's another situation where things were not right on closing day? Okay, I had another situation. This was during COVID. So now this time I was working with the seller, and the buyer came to closing and said that mirrors and different trinkets that were on the wall in the bathroom of the house had been removed. So this was during COVID. So if y'all can remember, it was a lot of angry people, and just people were off the chain during COVID. So long story short, I don't think my seller budged at all. And the buyer wanted to close, so that was that. It was that simple. What else, y'all? What else? Okay, so Alice wants to know, how do you know if you are approved for conventional or FHA? Okay, so your lender will determine that once they look at your credit and your debt to income ratio and all of that. The lender will determine if you will receive the FHA or VA or conventional. And like I mentioned to the USDA, it has to be in certain areas. So, okay. Okay, Benny. Benny wants to know. Drop a fire in the chat, y'all. If these are some good questions, drop a fire in the chat. All right. Benny wants to know, how does a veteran get zero down? So basically, that could just be negotiated in your that's part of your negotiations, and that's something that your realtor would handle for you. So it's basically something called seller concessions. So that is something your real estate agent would be able to work out for you, and that's how that goes. So that you would ask them at the time, but with the lender in the beginning, that's when you would be receive your pre-approval as a veteran, right? So, all right, y'all, let's get to the next part, because again, we don't want to wait. We don't want to waste a lot of time. But if you made it to this next section, which is the bonus section, type I made it. Type I made it in the chat, especially if you're watching a replay, y'all. Type I made it. Type I made it. So let's get to this bonus section. All right, my favorites. How to get financing for real estate investors. How do you get easy financing? All right, let's talk about conventional loans. That's one way to get easy financing as a real estate investor. All right, DSCR. Who knows what a DSCR loan is? Who has heard of a DSCR? Because I'm going to tell you, that name, that word, it's all over now. And just a couple years ago, well, no, I would say maybe about 5-6 years ago, I had never heard of it, right? So DSCR, this is where real estate investors who have tenant occupied properties can buy or refinance without paying money out of pocket. So, and without showing tax returns, y'all. Woo! No tax returns. So you can do this because the loan is based on the cash flow, the monthly income of the property. So long story short, to get a DSCR loan, you've got to make sure the loan, the rental amount can pay for the mortgage. So for instance, if your house is rented, if you want to buy a house that currently is occupied with tenants, Section 8 is bringing in $1,400 a month, and you want to buy it, and the price is only $105, and your payment's going to be somewhere like $900 or $800 a month. Boom, that's the DSCR, because you're going to have cash flow every month. If your payment's $900 and the tenant's paying $1,400 and your payment's $900 including taxes and insurance, boom, you got an extra $500-$600 a month coming in. So that's a DSCR. Bank statement loans, right? This is for self-employed people. This is for self-employed people where, excuse me, sorry about that. So this is for self-employed people where they don't get a W-2, but they get a lot of cash flow for their business that goes into their bank account each and every month. So that is how we can determine your income, right? Let's get to the next slide. So why not just get a loan from the bank, right? Because you know why. Bank got slower closings, stricter guidelines, personal income heavy. They focus on W-2s, tax returns, personal debt. Harder for self-employed, way harder for self-employed. All right, stricter guidelines, capped, just heavy documentation, slow approval. The list could go on and on and on and on and on. That's why you go to an investor-friendly lender, right, instead of a bank. All right. Now, if y'all feeling this, let me know in the chat. Just say I'm feeling it. Let me know in the chat. If y'all feeling this type of loan, type DSCR. DSCR. All right. We almost done, y'all. We almost done. So the typical timeline for buying and closing on a home or an investment property is you get pre-approved. Now, well, this is for the DSCR, the investor part. You get pre-approved, which is about 5 to 7 days. Property search, about 2 to 4 weeks, depending. Sometimes investors move fast and know exactly what they want. They usually call in 7 days and they got a house, right? What else? Then you go under contract. That's about 7 days. And closing about 14 to 30 days. And when you're at the closing table, as little as 1 hour. 1 hour, right? And these properties too, these investor properties, you can buy them in your LLC. They don't have to go into your personal name. All right? All right, y'all. So here are some tips for success. Now, tips for success. Keep clean LLC records, right? Have your LLC, your articles of incorporation, and your EIN documents handy. Don't mix your personal and business funds. Do buy properties in areas that yield good rents from tenants, all right? Now, use investor-friendly lenders. Not all banks finance LLC-owned properties. So again, an investor-friendly lender, that's who you want to call. All right. All right, y'all. And then ensure positive cash flow. Run the numbers, y'all. Run the numbers before you buy have an investor-friendly realtor too. When you are an investor, have an investor-friendly realtor, a realtor that understands investments, right? Because a typical traditional realtor, it doesn't matter if you're buying a house for top dollar because 9 out of 10 it's going to increase in value. But when you're buying an investment, you want to make sure you got a little equity and padding in that house. You need some room. You need some wiggle room, right? So that's it, y'all. That's it. I'm Katina Willis, your mortgage loan broker and officer. I'm passionate about real estate and investing. I became an investor myself. No, I became a mortgage loan officer in 2001 and an investor in 2021. We got a typo here, y'all. But I've been in real estate over 20 years and working with and as an investor for 20 years. So that is why I do love this business, and that's why I love investors, y'all. So thank you, y'all, for spending this time today. Thank you very much. And I hope you did learn and gain some knowledge about loans and getting a loan. Getting a loan for these lights are starting to get to me, y'all. So that's why I can't do it long. These lights are getting to me. So, but thank you so much for spending time with me today, and drop any questions or comments that you have about the real estate process or the loan process, whether you are buying your first home or buying your first rental. Our team over here, we are so delighted and happy to assist you. And so that's it. Thanks for your time. Here is my contact information too. You can call me or you can even send me a text message. All right. Again, it's Katina Willis. I'll see y'all later. Peace. Take care.